This is the endorsement interview for House District 45. Thank you to both of you for being here. A few brief ground rules of how this works. The goal of the next 30 minutes or so is for our editorial board, which today consists of myself and Anthony, to decide who it is that we're going to endorse in this contest. So we'll be asking you a series of questions that will help us understand your candidacy better, what you stand for, why you're running, who your supporters are, a few things that I think will help us to get a better sense of you. It's not a debate. We will perhaps ask you to ask each other questions occasionally or to engage, but we do ask that you not interrupt. We don't promise equal time, which means that we may spend more time talking to one of you than another. That's not necessarily an indication of which way our endorsement is going. Instead, it's a way for me to get a better sense of follow some questions that might help me better understand how to write this. So without further ado, Tweet, if you could start us off by introducing yourself, telling us why you're running, the boundaries of your district, and how you got into politics.
All right. Thank you for having me here. My name is Thuy Tran, and I am a small business owner in the Hollywood district. Been there since 1995. I am a mother of 3. I am a community activist, you might say. I've been involved in the community for a very long time. I have been part of the Portland Hollywood Lions since 1995, and they live by the motto, "We serve." And I have been striving to serve my community as a business owner. I was on the Park Row School District Board, been in many other boards like Family Forward, Metropolitan Public Defenders. I ran for state representative in 2012, missed a win by 550 votes about, but have not given up. So here I am again. I am a lieutenant colonel in the Air National Guard, and I took a vow to protect our country, and I will do no less for Oregon. I am running because I want to bring my lived experience, my long history of community service, and the racial and economic diversity, intersectionality of House District 45, where I hope to make a difference in the lives of everyday Oregonians.
Great. You're a physician, right?
I am an optometrist.
I don't know if I have any questions about that at this moment.
Okay, no cutting and slicing. I treat with medicine, and so I straddle medical as well as retail. Mm-hmm. So I have deep understanding of how our healthcare system works, as well as our small businesses that line our main street here throughout Oregon. 67% of all small businesses have less than 10 employees, and I am one of them. And so I know the impact of policy that can affect us.
What are your duties as a lieutenant colonel in the Air National Guard?
I am chief of optometry, and I'm also SGB. Don't ask me what that means. There's so many acronyms in the military, but I'm in charge of the Bioscience Corps for the 142nd Medical Group.
Okay. Are you out at the base?
Yep, at Pang.
Once a month, or how often?
1 week in a month, then I'm required to do 2 weeks a year in addition. And when I do my 2-week annual tour, it's mainly military, medical, humanitarian. Prior to 2016, I traveled abroad, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Vietnam on military mission, basically medical humanitarian. But since 2017 I've been doing my annual tour in country on the type of mission is called Innovative Readiness Training. You guys know what happened to Katrina, right? It took a long time for the EMEDS team to come out. Now the structure is such that every year we have training in area of the United States that needs service. Okay, we work with the community, and there's now a manning that we can pull from throughout the service: Army, Air, Navy, Coast Guard, U.S. Public Service. We fill that manning, right? How many
The staffing
optometrists?
kinda-
Yes.
yeah.
And then we are flown there along with the equipment we need. One day set up, next day we see patient. After the allotted time, we break down and we leave. But the training is so that care can arrive and be accessible immediately.
Sounds like we're getting smarter about this now.
Yes. The 142nd Medical Group is the home to the SURF-P team, and they work with our first responder, just in case, right? Incident like Cascadia can happen.
Oh, boy.
And so they train with our first responders so that up and ready they can go. And so Oregon is very well supported with regards to mass casualty and natural disaster incident.
I feel a little better.
Yes, yes, I feel much better knowing that too. And I like that they train regularly and are tested regularly with other units, a SURF-P unit, as well as our community emergency responses.
Great. George?
Well, I can tell you a little bit about myself. I believe that was the question.
Yes.
I'm a longtime resident of Oregon, as has been my family. My great-grandfather settled in Portland in 1864. My grandparents lived within District 45, on both sides, over in the Hollywood district. And my parents' first home was over in Laurelhurst district before they moved out to the suburbs, which was really rural at the time out near Glendiveer Golf Course, so my father could be closer to his sawmill, which he operated up in the corporate area. I now live within 5 miles of where I grew up, so I didn't move too far away. I attended Reynolds High School, and I would like all my classmates, our summers were normally spent in a cycle of the picking cycle. We came out of school on the 1st of June and picked strawberries, and then we moved to raspberries, and then we moved to blackcaps, and then we moved to string beans, and then we went back to school with the new clothes that we paid for with all our picking money. So most of those fields I worked on are right in the middle of District 45, and there are a few remnants of them, so I'm familiar with the neighborhood. Towards the end of my senior year, someone convinced me that I needed to do some community service, and they convinced me to join the Army National Guard. So
Oh, wow.
the doctor and I have some common interests there. And at that time, there was no war. I joined because I wanted to help people. That was really it. I was always intrigued with the first providers, and I considered even joining the police at one time or the fire department, but ultimately that didn't happen. But I did had my first public service in the Christmas floods in 1964, and you guys are all too young to remember that, but we were deployed to go out and evacuate people off the Johnson Creek floodplain at that time. After I graduated from Reynolds High School, I enrolled at Portland State University for several terms until I had to go to my active duty basic training at Fort Ord, and then they sent me up to Fort Lewis, Washington, and trained me as a mechanic. So I returned, and using my mechanical skills, I worked my way through college on the 7-year plan, I believe it was, and I'm one of the few with the distinction that it took me so long. I started out in a college and I ended up at university. I graduated, I believe it was in the middle of the year in '71. And while I was going to school, I developed an interest in real estate. And my goal, I wanted to become a real estate appraiser, but in a depression year, the real estate business is not very good, and there were no openings. And ultimately, my first real job after graduation, I taught automotive mechanics at Portland Community College. I used not my degree, but the job that got me my degree to get my first job. But I continued to pursue real estate business, and ultimately, I was hired by the city of Portland Engineers Office to do their right-of-way appraising. And I worked for there for 3 years, and then I opened my own appraisal firm, which I ran for 45 years or so. And I too was a small businessman, and I was employing like 5 to 6. I was in that category of the majority of the small businesses in Oregon. And I do understand the problems and difficulties with running your own business. And as far as community service, well, the National Guard was one example of my community service. And as I was raising my family, the time commitments made it difficult to really spend a whole lot of time in community service, but I was always active in the schools and my children. I served as an Explorer Scout leader for my kids and their friends. I was the president of the Wilson High School ski team for several years.
Is that where your kids went?
That's where my kids went.
Yeah, which is now IDB Wells, right?
Yeah.
It was just up there for a soccer game.
Yeah, but that's the same school.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, if you've ever tried to control a ski team, it's like herding mice. It's a real challenge. So I did that, and there was a period of time after that where I really did have the luxury of time to devote to community service, and that went until early 2000s. And things were settling down a bit, and I was approached as a landowner in the Multnomah County Drainage District to serve on their board. I was filling a vacancy, midterm vacancy, and they appointed me as one of the supervisors of the drainage district. And then I was subsequently elected to 3 more terms after that, and I ended, last term was completed in 2017 or 18, somewhere around there. And that was an unpaid volunteer job, and I did it just to help protect the community, and there were several reasons for that. It was a very well-run quasi-governmental agency, if you will. Had a small budget at the time. It was just a landowner-operated district. Budget was basically just operational costs, $1.5 million a year. It wasn't very large. That changed dramatically a year or so after I came on the board with the aftermath of Katrina. The flood devastation in New Orleans prompted them to examine all the levee systems in the country, and ours went from being the poster child to suspect. And
Wait, because your levee system is Multnomah County, did you say?
it's Multnomah County Drainage District, which now it comprises 5 separate drainage districts. We've been consolidated to be Peninsula Drainage District number 1 out by Kelly Point, Peninsula 2, which comes up to,
So do you have the airport too? Are they in charge
Airport
of the
is our
levees?
largest landowner.
Are you in charge of the levees that keep
We were in
Columbia
charge
out of
of
the
the levees
airport?
to
Okay,
protect
so that's where
Portland
that
International
became
So,
huge.
Yeah. What's your role with the drainage district now?
I was one of the board supervisors.
I see.
The board, I was a member of the board. They called us supervisor.
Great. What are you doing these days?
I'm retired. I worked up until first of the last year, and I said, that's enough. And I retired, and so I had a little time on my hands. And I think part of the question, why did I decide to run? Well, I was getting a little bored for one thing. I've always been fairly active, and I have a passion for the property across the street from where I live. It's called the Big Four Corners Environmental Sanctuary, and it was a pristine natural area until 4 or 5 years ago. It became one of the larger homeless camps in the city. I think it was the largest homeless camp in the city. And I called the city.
Keep going. I just want to look at the map. Keep going.
I actually know where this is, and you are correct.
I'm sorry?
I know where this is, and you are correct. It did become one of the largest homeless camps in the
Yes,
city.
and I called the city's office a number of times. I called Sam Adams' office. I wrote letters and everything, and I wasn't necessarily opposed to the campers themselves, which wasn't pleasant to be across the street, but the desecration of this natural area was just sad. It was sickening. And I looked at that thing and nothing was done. No one was doing anything. And I didn't really know what to do. And in May of this year, I was filling out my primary ballot. And I got down to representative for District 45, and there's no file. I'm a Republican. You had competition. There were several on your side. No one bothered to file on my side. And I figured this is an opportunity. Now I've got the time in my hand. It's an opportunity to do something that I really, I'm just so concerned about. And it's an environmental concern and it's a humanitarian concern. And nothing was being done to help. And I figured maybe I can do something. And that's why I decided to run.
Great. What's the first bill you'll introduce in Salem?
God, that's a tough question. There are so many things. I mean, it's a matter of priorities. And one of them, and they all kind of go back to this problem we're talking about. One of the main concerns why they've allowed this to continue, and there's a lot of crime and lawlessness over there. They just towed out 168 stolen vehicles last week.
Is that where that was?
Well, I got that from the tow truck driver. The city's giving out different
I
numbers.
read about this. It's insanity. Okay.
There was not a single violation or arrest made for that, but that's another story. And part of the reason for that is, and I can understand it, they don't want to arrest someone and place a stigma on them for a criminal record that will haunt them for the rest of their life. And so they're choosing to do nothing. So there's really no consequence for any of this criminal activity. And a lot of it is out and out criminal activity. And what I'm proposing, one of the bills that I'm trying to get my arms around would be to amend, I think it's ORS, I think it's 137. And that it has to do with criminal procedures and definitions and so forth. And right now, it's my understanding that if you have a criminal record, it rides with you forever. It will not be expunged unless you take a positive action and request and go through the process to have it removed. And there's a minimum time for felonies, for instance. I think it's not eligible to be expunged for a minimum of a year for a misdemeanor. And if it's a felony, I believe it's 7 to 10 years depending on the circumstance. But once you're eligible for that time commitment, you can have it expunged, but it's such a horrible process that especially the downtrodden, they can't afford it. You need attorneys, you need all kinds of things. My proposal would be that you would have, for certain classes of misdemeanors and felonies, that if you satisfied the terms of your sentence, which it might just be weekends at community service or something, if you satisfied that, and if you kept your nose clean for the whole time, it automatically would fall off your record. Okay, that would remove this problem with the stigma of treating these people. That's one of the bills. I think that would probably be a priority thing because it all wraps up with this huge problem we have. There are other things too I'd love to look at, and that's is our foster care system. I mean, we need to beef that thing up because there are a lot of kids at 18, they're out in the street with their underwear and no life skills.
Agreed.
And the first thing they do is...
I'm gonna stop you because we have a certain amount of time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
One bill.
Good stuff.
First bill.
I'll start with the fact that I believe that we need to take care of all folks in Oregon. 50% of our homelessness in Oregon are from out of state, but 50% of our homelessness are from our neighborhood. We must have shelter now that will lead to supportive services, mental health support, addiction treatment, and transition housing that will lead to supportive housing. All right, it's a process. I'm on the board of the Metropolitan Public Defenders, and I hear what you say about the felony records, but there are expungement workshop that is free. People just need to know how to access it. The Monoma Public Defender do hold these workshops at their office and at various community center, like the Rosewood Initiative. What is special about Metropolitan Public Defenders is that they have social worker. So access is very important. So if we want people to get, expungement, let's them know that access is available. So I believe that healthcare is important because healthcare can lead to bankruptcy, which means you lose your house and you're out on the street, right? Jobs, well-paying job is really needed. So we have to have resources so that we can train folks so that they can have a profession, a career. And so policy that helps with internship, apprenticeship, especially in the growing industry. I know you mentioned about sawmill, but when an industry is decreasing, let's create other industry. Let's say renewable energy, local companies, and get people into training that pays them also.
So that's your first bill, job training?
I will support that. Right now, because there is the other area that we need support for our families here in Oregon is child support. And I have a legislative concept in through Barbara Smith Horner. I got 10 of them. And I'm working to make sure that child care is fixed because it's a broken system right now. Family can't afford it. So half of our family, mom or dad, right, is staying home to take care of the kids because they can't find affordable, safe child support for their kids. So healthcare, jobs, childcare is so very important. And then there is housing, affordable housing. Once we take care of this, then folks that falls through the crack, George, will have service. And all of this requires accessibility. So some of the bills or legislative concept that I'm pushing through is housing, environmental justice, child care support, and things that takes care of Oregon. Yes, we will take care of our houselessness population, but we got a lot of work to do.
You're gonna be busy.
Sure, but
Well, I will be one of a team of 60 legislature that I have been working with since 2012, all right? I'm not somebody that have more time on my plate, and I do because I'm an empty nester now, but I've always made time so that I can do the work for our community, fighting for family and medical leave. Right now, child support, our public defender system is broken. Housing affordability is very important. Right now, our state incentivizes developer by unit. All right, so Sandy Boulevard has a lot of construction right now if you go down there, but there's studios and one-bedroom apartment. How can families set down roots in our neighborhoods? Right? We need 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom. Maybe we should incentivize developer based upon bedrooms instead of units.
Are you familiar with the Splash Project on Sandy?
No, share with me.
Okay. There's a project that used to be the old Pepsi building. Remember that cool building?
Yes.
That was going to have 44 units of affordable housing. And the state told them they couldn't do it because of the way they structured the deal. So now it's going to have 6. And that's because of the way the low-income tax credit bonds are working. Have you looked into this at all?
No, but we need
This sounds like what
to
you're talking about.
incentivize developer to build housing.
Well, that's what they tried to
housing.
do, and it's not working. It didn't work in this case.
Yeah,
They lost 38 units, and they were going to be mixed into the development,
Yeah.
which is such a shame.
Yeah.
Did you get? Where did you get your number for 50% of the homeless coming from out of state?
There is a nonprofit called Shelter Now, And they're going out to the community to talk to churches and community organization to make our community aware that we are not taking care of our folks and leaving them on the street
So
because
they said 50%?
about 50% of
'Cause
the
that's a-
folks that
that's a
comes
really-
into, yeah.
That's- I've
If
heard
you
that
go
number
to
is
the core
really high.
of downtown, many folks are not from here. But if you go out to the outer area of Portland, Park Rose, Lents, you'll find neighbors that have fallen through the cracks.
Sure.
Our safety net is not good. And it takes so long for them to get into housing that they stay on the street. So we need shelter now. And that will connect people with social workers to take care of their felony, health care, mental health support, addiction treatment. Money is starting to roll out now from Measure 110. It's slow.
That was our next
Oregon
question.
Health Authority needs to be accountable. The next rollout should be faster, right? Because it's taking so long. But resources is needed. For example, how are we going to have enough mental health providers? So training and job development from peer-to-peer counseling, people who have experienced houselessness, drug addiction can help each other. But the state needs to be a strong advocate and provide funding for this, just like how they have to advocate for more affordable housing and not put barriers that prevent affordable housing from happening. Not just for the low income, but working family housing also. You saw the skyrocket in house pricing, especially in our neighborhood, right, George? So how we support that also.
Great. I'm going to do a couple lightning rounds here because
Please.
I want to get some
Yeah, no,
questions.
right, yeah.
Who's your biggest find? How much money have you raised in this contest?
For the general or overall?
Let's say for the general.
For the general, around 30,000.
30,000. How much have you raised for this contest?
As of now, I believe about right around $40,000.
Great.
And that's just for
for November, I understand. Who's your biggest donor?
my biggest donor is a personal friend and former business associate, one of my best friends. His name is Kevin Howard. He's also a major benefactor for my father's house and a number of other humanitarian social organizations.
What do you think he's hoping for in this election?
What is he hoping for?
Yeah, what is he hoping for? Why is he giving you money?
Because he believes in me and he thinks he can help me. And I'll tell you one thing about my donors, and they run from $25 to $10,000. That's the top one from Kevin. I have not received or want one penny from any political organization. I have not received or want any money from any PAC or any political lobby. I have not received one nickel from a union. I have not received one nickel from a trade organization. I am accountable to no one.
Great.
And I want to keep it that way.
Same question. Who's your biggest donor?
My biggest donor so far is from the firefighters.
Oh, interesting.
$1,500.
What do you think they want from you?
They want me to raise the awareness of how short-manned they are right now, how they are exposed to many danger and carcinogen, and folks that are retiring from the firefighters have to come back and support our firefighters now because we don't have enough. They are now our mental health responder. So they are one part of the system that we have to work hard together. And through supporting them, we will be supporting our mental health support for our homelessness. We will be supporting the response time for our neighborhoods when we need it, for our neighbors. We will be supporting job training so that they can get more folks into the pipeline that is ready to respond for us. They're hardworking folks. They do not have money to give, but collectively they are supporting one of their uniform service folks, and raising the awareness that every single one of our community needs help.
Are you still
And not
fighting?
just the firefighters, but think about when wildfire happens, who will go and support the wildfire and yet still take care of our neighbors?
Portland City Council, Renee Gonzalez or Joanne Hardesty?
I am still thinking about it.
Okay, Renee Gonzalez or Joanne Hardesty?
I'm a supporter of Renee.
Okay. Portland City Council charter change, the changing of the system of government. It's measure 26228, but it's the big question in front of everybody this cycle. Where are you on it? Yes or no?
Constituent folks in House District 45 are reaching out to me about homelessness, about police, about fire, about services that the city should be taking care of. So the charter reform will allow more representation. So they can reach out to me for state issue, policy issue, funding issues, but our city needs to represent its folks more. So the charter will give community more representation, and I will support that.
Yes or no on charter?
No, it's a horrible idea. I can explain if you like, but I don't know how much time I have.
Probably not enough.
Give us the
But give us
top line, biggest complaint.
Biggest
Okay.
concern.
The main advantage of the charter reform, it will set up a city manager. I worked with the city 40 years ago. They needed one then, and they still need it now. We need to break up the fiefdoms of our various bureaus. But to add more people, it's just going to make more bureaucracy, make the problem more difficult. It's going to charge like $45 million to set this thing up. For what? And I don't think it's going to help. I think it's going to make it worse.
Anthony, do you have further questions?
Just, being a Republican is tough in especially the metro area. Are you a Republican, I'm just trying to, it sounds like you're a pretty moderate Republican and you're hoping to appeal to, moderate Democrats and independents as well?
The question is, am I a moderate Republican?
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering, are you
Yes,
are we,
I'm
where
not
are you
even
on
sure.
Donald Trump?
I sat down and read the Republican platform, state platform, and I'm not even sure I am a Republican after reading that. But I'm a moderate Republican. I don't want to get involved in all these distractions about reproductive rights and all this stuff. I think that's something that should be left up to the woman and her doctor. The government has no business in there. So that gets me off of the Republican page.
But you stay with the party because
But
why
I'm
do
a
you stick with it?
Republican. I'll tell you why I'm a Republican. I'm a fiscal realist. And I think that's probably the major difference. We're on the same page with almost everything that you've talked about. These are all things that need to be addressed. They're noble ideas, but we have to figure out how to pay for them. And that, I think, is the biggest difference between you and I. If you look at our tax structure in this state, if you look at the rough data in a 1,000-foot perspective, we're number 22 in a ranking of 1 to 50 in the states for overall per capita taxes collected.
God, I thought we were higher. Oh, wait, the state.
Yeah.
You're talking about the state.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sure Portland is much higher.
Yeah. And that sounds okay. We're kind of right where we ought to be. But then look who's paying for this stuff. We're ranked 49 in corporate business taxes. We're almost the worst state in the whole union.
You mean that we
for the burden on our businesses relative to everybody else. We're putting a huge load on our businesses, and a lot of them can't afford it. You're right. I read that there was 45,000 small businesses in the state of Oregon, which is something over half or somewhere around half of our business with under 6 employees. These people can't afford to withstand these burdens of continuing escalating taxes. We need to be able, if we're going to pay for these items, we've got to spread this burden out, or we're going to run the small businesses broke or out of town.
So what would you get rid of? Which ones?
I don't know that I would get rid of any of them. Now, we're never going to get a sales tax in this state. I mean, I've been here my whole life. That isn't going to happen. And that's the difference between our other states. The ones that have less corporate burdens have sales tax. That's spreading the tax burden over a larger spectrum of the population. And we're never going to get that. So our only option is to keep hammering our small businesses or raise taxes on the low-income people that can't afford it. And we don't want to do that either.
I don't
So-
agree with that because most mom and pop business like yours and mine will never reach above $1 million growth receipt at this time. And so the majority of the businesses that line our main street, all right, what we must not do is regress. If business tax is going to help us fund our education, we need to. Because our students have been so impacted prior to 2019, and as we have seen from the pandemic, they need all the support they can so that they will be our future, strong, educated, a workforce that is envied. But if we do not have funding for our education, the Student Success Act, and everybody needs to pitch in to support our future. And so we just need to be more effective and have our agency be accountable.
Did you guys see this? Did you see the ACT score data this week?
What was
The
it?
ACT scores, you know, the standardized test.
No, I didn't.
Oregon was dead last out of
You have
states of our
to take
size.
a look
I know
at
it's a
things
test
in
that's-
perspective. Not very many students take the
understand.
ACT. If you do well on the ACT, you can get scholarship. But during the past couple of years, because of the pandemic, many universities are waiving even the SAT.
Yeah, right.
So
But I'm just
take
saying-
that
I
result
know, I know
with
it's
a
a
grain
small
of
sample.
salt, right? It's a
sample.
very small sample.
But, you know, my kids took the ACT.
How'd they do?
They did well.
There you go.
All right, anyway, go on. How'd you do?
ACT?
You didn't take it. You're from Florida.
Oh, I took it.
Oh, you did?
You want me to go on the record on camera?
Let's go, baby.
I received a number of college scholarships because of my ACT scores.
Good job. Did you take the SAT too?
Those were even better.
That's our next question.
And now,
Your SAT scores.
My
and now I'm in newspapers making no money. So
Okay.
let that be a lesson to everyone.
May I say a comment? I am a daughter of refugees from the Vietnam War. English is my second language, all right? Second language speaking folks will perform poorly on
Right, of
standardized
course.
tests.
Yeah.
So even though I was in honor, even though,
Yeah.
you know, I'm a smarty, I performed
Yeah.
poorly on
Yeah, I know,
SAT.
yeah.
So you have to look at standardized tests with a grain of salt, okay?
Yeah.
No doubt.
Sure.
I would assume that you make something like 5 times what I make.
No, because I'm a small business owner. I pay my staff
Oh no,
first.
it's worse for me. I'm a small business employee.
In newspapers.
We're all in the same boat. Let's work
Yeah.
together to make Oregon better, okay?
I don't know. I don't know if we're all in the same boat.
Should we-
But
Should we do the fun question?
yes.
You wanna do the fun
let's
question?
do the fun question. Anthony, I feel like this is you have been a joy in these interviews, and I feel like you should ask the fun question.
All right.
This is our
what
last
is
day
our
of
fun
This is our last
question?
interview.
Wait, I have one more today.
Well, there are 2 more today, but both of them are partials with
Partials.
where they're essentially
It's our
doing
last
wrap up
full
for
one.
previous.
Anyway,
Right.
it's so fun to do this. It really is. I've learned so much. I've only been here since January, and I think it's amazing. It's I feel lucky. Okay, so our fun question this year has actually got a sort of a non-fun preamble. If the world was going to end tomorrow morning and you had one more dinner to eat, what food would you eat?
What's the one thing that's got to be on the menu?
It's got to be on the menu.
Okay. I am a person who lives in the moment. So regardless of if it is the end of the world, what is in my mind at this time? And it is lasagna. Garlic bread and a nice crisp salad with cherry tomatoes on it. As a vegan,
Oh.
it is harder to make lasagna than it used to, but with our industry and how it is growing, vegan cheese are just amazing. And right in our house district is Kate Hill. So it is a growing business where they make dairy products that are plant-based. So
Nice.
cheese-laden tomato juice.
I'll try that.
Yes, Cake
Very,
Hill.
very good.
Sure.
I love lasagna.
Bread and salad.
Pick lasagna also.
Yeah, it's
We
not
can
like.
share a meal together, George, on the last day of the earth.
All right. Okay, let's see. My favorite. Well, I'm an avid fisherman. I'm an avid salmon and steelheader. My freezer's full of salmon,
Oh.
and I'm a waste not, want not guy. So if it's going away tomorrow, I better eat
You better eat
There
it.
you go.
And you know, with what's going on over there in Ukraine, I better,
Well, that's
I better
I know,
fall some
I know,
out.
I know, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, yeah, I got some nice. Yeah, you have a good point about the freezer.
Okay, you'll have
So
a
say-
fish grill, and I'll bring the lasagna, okay?
Thank
We'll
you
have
both.
it at your house.
Thank you.
I think I
Very
remember
much.
in your primary too. Everybody. This is the nicest district in Oregon. We had a great talk with you and your opponent. You were both very nice to each other. You're very nice to each other. I
Catherine
don't know.
and
I'm
I
gonna
are
move
working together now.
Are you?
And I hope, George, that we will work together when I win.
Okay, yeah. We're off the record now, I assume.